Three, two, one. Looks like we are live. All right. Welcome. Welcome. How's everybody doing? I'm doing pretty good. I just came in. Had a great day today. Very inspirational day. Inspirational. So welcome to the Anyone Can Farm experience. Live chat. Tuesday night. Let's see. What is the date today? Today's the 4th, February, 2025. A lot going on right now. A lot going on in the country. A lot of things. Old Trump's really tearing it up. His administration has taken note. About time. We'll see how things go. I'm not going to really comment on that tonight because I think if you are interested in that type of stuff, you can get your fill of it pretty easily. I want to talk about farming. I want to talk about homesteading because that's kind of what I do all day. And I do it all day because I want to do it all day. And it's one thing that I can talk about. No problem. So let's see. I kind of like to sometimes tell you what's going on around here. And I'm all about inspiring people. I did make a video Sunday about inspiration because, as you know, I last year went to the Mitten Homestead Conference, which the Mitten Homestead Conference is a Michigan homestead conference, and it's called Mitten because the state looks like a mitten, right? If you're from Michigan and somebody says, "Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from over in the thumb." "Oh, I'm up on the tip of the pinky." You know that. So I went to that, and I felt pretty strongly about that. My main thing is this farm. That's what I do. That's how I make my living. And so when there's farm conferences in Tennessee and Virginia and all over the place, I don't really have time to get involved in that. It takes a lot of time out of my time here. And when I'm not here, things kind of can slide a little bit. And so I like to stay close. But in Michigan, I think that homesteading is a local thing. It's local. So sharing with people that are local to me makes a lot of sense. So I went last year. I wound up presenting for 2 different sessions. A guy couldn't make it, and so I filled in for him. So I presented for 2 of them, and it was really fun. And these people are kind of my neighbors because we're all in the same state. So I had a really good time. Me and Jill stayed down there. So it was kind of a mini vacation. The kids held down the fort here. The kids don't mind when we leave, honestly. They just do operational things, and then they're kind of able to just do what they want to do, which is good for them to have that once in a while. So we went and had fun, and I told Mina Postman, who put it together, I said, yeah, I'll definitely come back again. And I was kind of going to go back, and then all of a sudden that was Sunday before last, we had some friends over and we were talking about it. And I said, "Hey, you going to go?" And this guy said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go." He says, "Are you presenting?" And I said, I think so. And he said, "Well, they've got a speaker list together and I didn't see your name on it." And I said, "Oh." So I called mine that night at 9:22 on a Sunday night. And I said, "Hey, I'm not ghosting you here. I really want to come and support this." And she said, "Well, we've got our speaker list together." And she said, "Yeah, I know you want to come," and all that. So I said, "Well, I'm coming anyway." And so then she called me about a week later on Sunday and said, "Would you mind doing kind of an inspirational talk on Friday night?" And I said, sure. And I said sure before I even thought about it. And then I went back to what I was doing Sunday morning milking. And I got to thinking about what is it that inspires people when it comes to anything, when it comes to anything. Uh, and I think there's levels of inspiration. You know, you see a calendar. Oh, that's inspirational. I'd like to do that. So that's a level of inspiration. But then you get into it a little bit, and there's always that period where you're inspired and it's new and cool and all that stuff. And then the problems set in possibly, or the money runs out, or something goes wrong, or just time goes by and it gets a little old, and then you got to get to the next level of inspiration. You're seeking the next level of inspiration. And for me, when I first got into this, I was always told about this guy's place that's down in Marion. He's an Amish guy. He's not around here anymore. He's long gone. But I was told by people around here that, oh, yeah, you got to see what he's doing down there. And I went down there, and he wasn't as far along as I was in this whole thing. And so it was inspirational for sure to see what he was doing. But I think if I had got there and he was going to say to me, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and I know all about this, but I haven't done it yet, I don't know as I would have been all that inspired. I would have continued to seek, inspiration. And so I still do. A lot of it comes from within, because I have these ideas, and then we start working those ideas, and we find other things, right? We find other things. It's like a stepping stone. An idea is um, a starting point, and then you make the first step towards it, and then you see another place to step, and then another. And as you go, you're getting deeper into the forest, I guess, and then you start to notice this and this, and an idea that you had 2 years ago, it's all like, oh, this is how this would fit in. And so it's a self-inspirational thing, I think. And when you talk with people that have experienced that, that is highly inspirational, I believe. And their ideas can dovetail with your idea. All of a sudden, wow, we've got a different idea, and you can go on that. So that will be a good thing to do. I think I'd enjoy doing that. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it for sure. And we're gonna camp down there. So we stayed down there at an Airbnb last year, which was pretty cool. It was a camper, and it was right on a river there, so it was pretty neat. But I've kind of wanted to have my own camper for quite a long time now, and I think I may have come across something that's going to do the job. So I was. I'll just tell you real quick. I was over at John Spears. He takes care of all of our automotive things, and I had told him, "Hey, my son Jim's going to be driving pretty soon, so keep your eyes peeled for a guy like him." And he says, "I got a Dakota pickup, 1999. It's got no rust on it. It's a little bit beat up, but it would probably be a good cheap start." So I said, "Yeah, okay." So I mentioned it to Jim, and he said, "Oh, let's go take a look at it." And so we went down there, and we looked at the pickup, and it was everything John said. And Jim was kind of like, "Well, I don't know. But there was another vehicle there. It was a camper. It was a motorhome. And it just caught my eye because it was sitting really nice and straight. It was definitely older, but I didn't know how old. And so I walked around the front of it, and I saw the front of the van. It was a Ford van, a 1-ton van that had the conversion on it. I think it's probably 20 feet long, maybe. Pretty good size. And I was just really impressed with how straight it was sitting, and it had obviously been taken care of. I mean, it's probably been sitting out for the winter. And all I did was open up the door and I looked in and I was like, wow, this thing's in pretty good shape for the age. And I didn't know exactly what age it was. And because I'm pretty good on Ford trucks, but vans, not so much. I don't follow them that much. And so I said to John, hey, what's the story on that? And so he told me, and told me who owns it as a guy that works for him. So I said, okay, well, tell him I'm interested in it. And we're going to go take a look at it. So he contacted me and he said, for anybody else, I'd want this much for it. But for you, so this range, it needs some things for sure. It's going to need to be fixed up, needs tires. And I'm sure it's going to need hoses and, just things. But it's only got 70,000. And I looked at the registration last Saturday, and it's a 76 Ford 1-ton Econoline van. So, yeah, I'm familiar with the engines that goes in those. I'm not sure which engine is in that one. It's a V8 for sure. But so I am pretty thinking, yeah, I want to get that, make a project out of it, really clean it up, and it'll be very classic looking, right? And I think it fits in with the motif here. We recondition stuff a lot. And, you have to cut costs in order to keep moving ahead. And making payments on things is nothing that I like doing. And so let's say we were to get one that's 10 years old, you've got a heavy payment on it, because if it's newer like that, it's going to be expensive. And then it still has things go wrong. So anyway, I think we're gonna get it, and that's what is going to be our ride going down there. But anyway, whole inspiration thing. So I think inspiring people is a thing that we all need to do to each other, and I believe that you inspire people by just telling them what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, share the failures. Anybody I know that's a success makes a lot of failures, and they're not afraid to fail. And I've had plenty of failures. So the project that I've been working on the most lately is getting our dairy up and running. And, we are milking the cows, we're bottling the milk, and the milk is going. And it's working, and it's working well. I got a new customer today, and we have two new herd shares coming in next week. So we're right at that point where we don't quite have enough milk. And that's really where you want to be, because then you'll have a cow that freshens, and then, okay, we're good now. And I think that I will be maybe looking for another cow here. I will. And I have one of my heifers that's going to freshen in May. And then I have another one behind her, but she's kind of a ways out. And yeah, it's really, I'm excited about it. The space that we're using is new. We've just built it. It's the old milk house, and we put a new floor down in there and reestablished the walls and put a ceiling in it, insulated it, put steel on the inside. We actually used the steel that we tore off the roof. We repurposed that for the inside, and it's working really good. Got a heater in there. It's a repurposed heater I got from old Keith. Keith's with us right now. Sean's with us. Inga's with us. All right, Inga. And let's see. Above it is the milk house suite, which is a little apartment that's roughed in at this point. Got the windows in, and it's roughed in. It's not livable at this. That's something that's on the list, right? I have other priorities ahead of that. But the milk house, we had to accomplish the electricity in there. We had to get the water in there, right? We had to get water in there. And that's a trick here in the north. because once you run water into a building or a space, you have to protect that space. You have to heat it. And I made a huge error. I plumbed it in the same way that you would plumb in a house. But in a house, you maintain it at, even if no one's there, you're going to maintain it at 50 degrees or 60, maybe even 65 to keep the plumbing here in the north, depending on how well the house is built. And so I did that, and we ran the plumbing in the wall and covered it. And I ran PEX tubing. It's a polyvinyl PVC tubing. It's really nice. And then I put insulation on the outside of it and then closed it up. 6 inches of insulation. And the first real cold night we got, froze. So ran heat in there hard, got it thawed, and I thought, well, there's got to be a weak spot. And so I looked around. Oh, here's where it is, and fixed that. And it was the insulation was kind of not positioned correctly. And because the upstairs is not roughed in, is only roughed in and not insulated, it left a weak spot. But then we got some more cold weather, froze again. So we had to make a decision on that. Are we going to heat that space to 65 night and day, where you really only use it for a couple hours in the morning and then the heat can get turned down? Or are we going to reaccomplish the plumbing in a way that we can turn it down to 35 degrees, and during the night, so long as it's 35, the water will stay open? Well, I opted for that because right now we're heating it with propane, and we went through quite a bit during that cold spell. And I opted for that because I want to be able to use minimal energy in there, minimal. And I'm 85% insulated. I've still got some concrete showing on the east wall. It's a very thick wall. It's about 12 inches thick. But still, it's a heat sink. It's pulling heat out of the building. And the floor is concrete, and it's also quite a heat sink too. I want to put something over that, some sort of poly layer that you put over it. I keep seeing all these great things coming out of, I think, China. You just pour it on and spread it around. It makes a beautiful floor. I don't know if it really works like that, but you do get some R value out of it. So I got some things to do, but I moved the plumbing on the outside. I made it external, and that way it's right by the ceiling, and any heat that's in there is going to, because heat rises, right? If you didn't know that, the heat will rise to the ceiling and it will keep plumbing open. And then if I know we've got some real cold weather coming, I can put an electric heater in there and put it on a switch that it'll come on if we get to, right? So I'll have a fail safe in place. So that's, it was a mistake. And if I was ever to do it again, I wouldn't do it again. But now we've got it straightened out and it's working good. Looks good. I had to tighten up the doors, the weather seals on the doors and things like that. But it's all in all, it is a very usable space. It makes milking a lot more pleasurable, a lot quicker, less steps. We were taking the milk from the milk parlor across the driveway into the day kitchen, or the summer kitchen now is what we're kind of calling it. It's the old butcher shop that, is well insulated and holds heat well, and the water has stayed open there like very well. So that's what I've been working on, and I did a few more things to it today, just to move that ball down the field. I mean, it's things you can do in between the things that you have to do, right? We had to take care of the animals today. We had to feed everybody, milk. Uh, and then my crew was in the butcher shop and they were working on beef. So I didn't work on beef at all today. I worked on the milk house, milking. I sat down with a customer for almost an hour, herd share customer. And then I'm working on another project, a feed project, because this summer, I want to create all my own feed. And so I'm putting together a process where I can process bread down to portion where I can mix other things in with, make my own feed. So I was working on that and didn't get too far on that. I did what I thought would work and it didn't work. So I've got to rework it again. And I have a direction, but it's a bit cloudy right now. But anyway, that's what I did today. Another thing I did today, which is where we're going to go tonight with the conversation, is I did some thinking about some issues that have come up. So since Sunday, I've had 4 conversations with people. It didn't start out where I didn't initiate the conversations. They initiated it, and almost as though they're seeking guidance, but they didn't come right out and say it. So every one of the issues had to do with health. And what I said, look, I am not a healthcare professional. I'm not. So I don't have a degree in something that's healthcare. But I am a person who, at one point in my life, had some training in pattern recognition. It was not a huge thing. Not a huge thing. It was actually in a defensive. We were being trained in defensive posturing and actually what not to do, right? And one of the things that we were trained not to do is in the middle of the night at the same time and walk to the outhouse. Don't do that, because somebody will see you and say, he does that every night. So do not be consistent in the environment that we were going to be operating in, because consistency is a casualty. If somebody's watching you and they want to create mayhem, they can take a shot at you. And so you do not want to be consistent in your movements. So that was the thing. And then identifying something that you see. Well, I saw that yesterday. And I saw that the day before. So when you see a pattern twice, when you see something twice, then whoop, you want to be looking for it the third time. And then what does that pattern indicate, right? So it was a half-day training, pattern recognition. It was given by a person who it was in the career field that my son is being trained to do, which is pararescuemen. And they are smart about so many things. And what this block of training was called anti-sniper. Right? So if you don't want to be in the crosshairs, this is what you should be looking for. This is how you should operate. This is how you should carry yourself and your people in a day-to-day operational setting, right? So that really set in to me. And from that day forward, whenever I see a pattern, it gets my attention. And moreover, I want to know Why is there a pattern here? Uh, what can this mean? And I think to some people, they could say, well, that seems a bit paranoid. Well, paranoia is if you think somebody's walking behind you, but no one's there. But if someone is walking behind you, you have the right to want to know or question, why are you walking behind me? You know? So I've noticed something. And when I was talking with these people, one is a childhood friend, one is a sister, one is a nephew, and I'll leave the other one out, right? And they were telling me about, well, I've been dealing with some health issues. Really? What's going on? I mean, what do you say? Well, I don't want to hear it. Oh, what's going on? In these 4 conversations, I was hearing similarities. And when I would kind of look at the lifestyles of these people, I saw similarities. Actually, 5 conversations, because then I talked with my niece too. So I saw similarities, and they lined up conversations that I've had for the last 10 years with people who come into the farming world not for the mystique of it, but the necessity to get better food. But like I go deeper than that. I have to. Like, what do you mean better food? Cheaper food? Food that makes you feel good because it was ethically raised, or you come to a farm and it's kind of a nice setting, and is that it, or what are we looking for here? So we titled this tonight Human Health. And then I tied some other experiences that I've had with animal health and my own health. And it ties in with a concept that I literally only heard it maybe 15 years ago. I never heard it before. I'd witnessed it, but I had never heard the term regenerative. Okay. So we talk about regenerative agriculture, but it could be regenerative medicine. It could be regenerative soil health, soil care, regenerative pasture health, pasture care. And so what does this mean? What does this mean? I think that's the good news, and that's the crux of the thing that I want to say, And I'll tell you right now, when I come up, when I discover something like this, and I think it's valid enough to share, I feel like I have a burden on me until I share it. And for a long time, when I discover something in my farming operation, or I'm doing something that I think I want to show off because I think it would help somebody, I carry around this burden with me until I pull this baby out and say, hey, this is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. I got something to tell you. So I carry around that burden with me for a while. And I finally got to the point where, well, I got to go out the tractor in, and usually I plug it in and then I walk back and do something else. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to share this right now. So I went out, I plugged the tractor in, whipped out the old phone, went through the whole thing that you have to go through to make a video. I never edit videos ever. I don't even know how to, because I don't make videos to get, my thing is farming. Milk goes out, dollars come in. Beef goes out, come in. Pigs go out, dollars come in. Pork goes out, dollars come in. That's what I do. And I believe that there's a lot of strength in that, because as I say all the time, and I'm just parroting what Ralph Waldo Emerson said, and I'm from around there, so as a school kid you hear it all the time. If you do the thing, you will have the power. If you do not do the things, you will surely not have the power. You know, I that has just stuck with me for a long time. And I didn't think of it much until I read a book here on this farm, and it was right there. Like, yeah, that's true. So it's just like being inspired. I'm not inspired by somebody that, well, I have a book on that on the shelf. Well, that's not too inspirational. Have you read the book? Yes. Okay, we're getting close. Have you implemented what the book says? Well, no. Okay. Can I borrow the book? You know? So I was inspired to share this information because I'm starting to see a pattern here. So I'm out there in the bread shed, and I make this video while the tractors were warming up. And I titled the video, because I know how to do that now. I know how to put a title on it. I figured it out. And I said, somebody's got to say something. Why I say that? Okay, because how come nobody else is saying this? Am I the only one that's seeing this? And I'm not going to make a video and I get 200-300 people that's interested in what I'm doing because they're doing it. Or maybe they're just interested in what I'm doing and they're not going to do it. I don't know. But this video, I checked it a couple minutes ago, and it got 5.4 thousand views. Is it because of the title? I don't know. Is it a glitch in the system? Is Elon tuning into me? I don't know. I don't know. I do not know, but I would surmise, because I've had videos that have gotten a lot of views, and honestly, it doesn't matter to me how many views. It just doesn't really equal anything, you know. It doesn't, because I'm not a full-time content creator. I just once in a while want to share something with my people, my tribe, my friends, my countrymen, you know, because I think it'll help them. And I'll take this burden if I don't share. But anyway, I titled it, what did I say? I said, well, if no one else is going to say anything, I will. Is that what I said? Oh, Keith, what did I say? Dion's with us. Brian Jacobs with us. As a Loretta, I'm happy to be of your unburdening. I want to be known as Loretta. I said somebody's got to say it. Somebody's got to say it. That's what I said. How many views it has. And, of all the things I did today, this is something that really stands out. 5.7 thousand views. I'm not joking. I don't know if you can you see that? Well, take my word for it. If you don't trust me, you wouldn't be listening in. But I titled it, Someone Needs to Say It, because I started to notice a pattern. And the pattern was no one saying anything. We have known about this for a long time. I would say 10 years. And we've mentioned it once in a while. We've acted accordingly with the information that we have. But no one else says anything. And I've done interviews with people that are really, really high up the food chain in government and things like that. And I notice there's a consistency that they never say, well, what about this? And I'm waiting for them to say, what about this? But they don't. And then I was tuning in to the confirmation hearings the other day, and RFK Jr. is being confirmed as HHS. And, that's all about health. And he's really into farming and stuff. And I'm waiting to hear it. Never did. Well, that's consistent. Why is that? So I just was going through all the reasons in my mind why people wouldn't say anything about it. And I guess it's fear. You're up against very powerful entities, and maybe you're not supposed to say anything about it. Do that. I don't work for those guys. If someone's gonna, really get upset with me and do me away, oh, so be it. But I'm not going to live in a state of fear and not say something that people need to know. So the people that I've talked to recently that have had health issues, when I question them a little bit, because I naturally want to kind of get to the bottom of it and figure out, well, what is it that is weakening them and interrupting their regenerative nature as a human being? And if you don't think we're regenerative, if you get a cut on your hand and you do nothing, which is usually what I do, all of a sudden it's gone. It heals. It regenerates. The skin regenerates and the wound closes up and it regenerates. That is a regenerative process. It doesn't require me to put something on it, a Band-Aid or a bacitracin or anything. It doesn't require that to fix itself. It just fixes itself. And I'm not against Band-Aids or bacitracin. I'm not. By the time I finish up for the day, it's like, oh, I don't have time for that, And I've been through it so many times, so many wounds, that I just know it's going to heal up. And it hasn't slowed down. The cuts and stitches and things that I had when I was a kid healed up. Now I'm 64 years old. They still heal up, right? So it hasn't slowed down. I can damage a joint, a shoulder joint by doing something, and I can, whine about it and go to the hospital and get x-rayed and all this and get painkillers and take Tylenol and all that stuff. But I found it's probably just better to just don't worry about it. It'll go away, and it does. And I've seen people with real conditions. I was one. I had an injury when I was in the service. Nothing big. I jumped off of a truck and I had a heavy pack on and I slipped about 6 inches. I couldn't even get out of my cot the next day. Literally could not get out of my cot. And it was a really sucky thing that we were doing. And that's not the time when you want to say, I can't get out of my cot. That's the time when you want to just get out of your cot. But I literally couldn't get out of my cot. And it resulted in about 4.5 years of sciatic nerve pain that started in my hip and went down the back of my leg. And it was so bad that I literally could not stand in line at the store. So I go in and get what I needed food-wise, and I'd have to go to a register that there was nobody there. And by the time I got done paying, I was sweating. It hurt so bad. And then I would quick get to my vehicle, sit, and then get home and go through the whole process, get the stuff in the house, and then boom, right into a chair. Like, this is bad. And so in my mind at the time, it's like, this is going to be like this forever. And so what goes through your mind is, I'm broken beyond repair. Things go through your mind like, life is not worth living like this. I even said that to a friend one time. This sucks. I don't even know if I want to keep going. Yeah, it goes through your mind. So I tried to fix it with Well, if I take 6 aspirin, that'll fix it. I got an ulcer from it, and I got the ulcer resulted in having to take this stuff called Tagamet, so I could stand up. It was pretty bad. I must admit it was really bad. And then things changed. Me and Joe got married, and a year after that, we bought the first farm. And I was just distracted enough, I think, where I'd get home from work, and instead of going to a chair, I would just go out and, hey, we've got layer hens. Look at this. Isn't this cool? Well, I'm going to build this. And before I knew it, well, I'd get in bed, crash. Oh, my back hurts. But the next day it wouldn't be quite. And then one day, hey, it hurts a little, but it's not like debilitating. And now, well, within a few years, I had no pain. No pain. The only time that I would have pain, for some strange reason, I'd spend most of the day on my feet, and then I get home and I would work on the farm. But for some strange reason, if I went to the gun show out in Montana, which we went religiously to the gun show because my kids were like, oh, the gun show. We got to go to the gun show. And yeah, I like going to the gun show. I even went to the gun show here. It's not like it used to be, but it was still fun. It's at the Coliseum or the arena, where the skating arena, they put the floor down. And all these guys show up, they set up tables, and they got guns on their table that they're selling and trading and all this stuff. Right. So, but for some strange reason, I would go there, and about halfway through, it'd be like, whoa, I forgot what that felt like. And I wouldn't have to take to a chair, but by the time I got out my vehicle, I was glad. So anyway, my body regenerated. Whatever happened there, whatever happened in my back, they x-rayed me. They did all kinds of stuff. They even said, well, we can fuse your backbone. And I was in they did 2 MRIs on me. I was in such a place where I was about ready to say, let's do it. But then when they said, well, we got to go in from the front, I said, what about like my guts and stuff? We lay them out on the table. And then we go in, we saw your backbone in half, we take it out, we put in a neoprene bushing, and then that sounded scary. And I was friends with a lady at the time that was a nurse, and she said, if you do that, that is an injury that you will have to live with the rest of your life. This back thing, it might go away. So anyway, it did go away, and I didn't get surgery, and I'm glad that I didn't. But anyway, the point I'm going to try to I'm making here is the human body is regenerative. So in all of cases, people had injuries that started a chain of events. And the injuries, it was very clear to me when they told me what their injuries were, that their body was not regenerating itself. Like, your cartilage will regenerate. The cartilage that you have in your legs right now is not the cartilage that you had in your legs last year. It regenerates cell by cell. The old ones slough off, get carried away in the blood, out they go, and the new one takes its place. So if you get a cartilage injury, it will regenerate. It will. They say it won't, but I don't think I believe that, because there's a lot of things I don't believe, and I'm just going off pattern recognition and what I have seen happen in my life. So we get down to the place where a person is not overweight. They are healthy in most other ways, but they are not regenerating, or they're not regenerating fully. They're not regenerating adequately. And so you start to see this downturn. Now, one thing that I learned from Craig Schaff, that when a tree is going to die, right? It doesn't die immediately, right? It's a process of, when that starts to happen, it signals the rest of the environment that I am in the process of dying. And what happens then? Then you start seeing mushrooms coming up around the base of it, right? And then when it finally goes over, mushrooms go crazy around there. Because what do the mushrooms do? They take that wood and root and all that stuff, and they take it back to the earth. They use it to generate their thing, their bodies. They use it. And so when we see somebody that is not regenerating, then something's wrong. They are actually in the process of dying. Maybe the early stages of it, but then we start seeing increased parasite load, right? And other things. I can't be too specific on this because, this is just a pattern that I'm seeing. I don't have any scientific data to back it up. Somebody said that about me today too. He obviously knows nothing about chemistry. But what is it? What's the common denominator here? That's what I'm looking for. What are all of these people doing that is hampering, retarding? You can say that now. What is retarding their regenerative system? Like, are they not getting? Oh, it's because they're not taking, Centrum Silver. You don't regenerate without Centrum Silver. What about Centrum Platinum? Maybe that you would regenerate then. And I think it looks to me like something that I see in animal health as well. Like when they are unable to take out of the feed that they're taking in the nutrient that they need to rebuild the cells that are not functioning properly, then they start to starve. They get weak. Sometimes they scour. I didn't get into it enough to say, have you got diarrhea? But the gut lining, it seems, is not working properly, and it weakens and gets abrasions, and then it's the gut, what's in the gut, the juices that are decomposing the food that goes in it or digesting the food cease to work properly, or they are retarded. So what is it that could retard the digestive capability of the gut? What could do that? What is it that a guy that's living in Virginia and a gal that lives in Massachusetts and another gal that lives in New York, what's the common denominator here? It's not all that they're American. I don't think that's it. Their nationality, I don't think that's it. And they're all eating from different sources. So what's common to all these sources? And I believe, and I guess this is where you're going to have a little faith in what I'm saying, because I get to see this in the farming business and in the reading that I do and the people that I associate with. I also see it in people who have lactose intolerance. So a lot of my milk customers can't drink milk from the store, get the scoots, get a stomach ache. It doesn't work. So what could be in that milk? What's in that milk? I see it in people who have gluten intolerance. They can't eat bread. It's got to be gluten-free bread. Well, what is it that could be in bread that could also be in milk? And then one of these gals eats a lot of like, you know, um, fried foods, say from, fast foods. Okay, so what's the common denominator, right? And we see the war on seed oils or vegetable oils. But what the heck is with vegetable oils that's so inconsistent with, what could be the common denominator of all of these things? And I go through the list of things that it could be, and I only come up with one thing, and it is glyphosate. Glyphosate, the trade name on that is Roundup. I don't know if it is anymore because I think the patent on that has been sold to Bayer. So I think that it's just glyphosate now. And here's what glyphosate is. And we can do some further research into this to buttress this argument, because I could be wrong. But if I have to advise somebody on this and they're looking to me for guidance, and I say, well, if I was you, I would do this. Okay. And I'll get to that. Glyphosate is a defoliant, right? It was patented as a defoliant. A defoliant is, or a herbicide, anytime you see side, it's death. Like matricide is killing your mom. Patricide, killing your dad. Homicide. Come on, Brian, what is it? No, it's killing a homo sapien, right? Homicide, not killing a homo. No, I think that's, what is that? I don't know. Doesn't matter. But anytime you see side, it's death, it's kill, right? So herbicide, a herb is a plant, herbicide. And it's used in conjunction most of the time with genetically modified crops. So a genetically modified corn is genetically modified so that you can spray herbicide on it and it will kill everything except the genetically modified crop. Let's say it's a corn, corn crop. They can douse it down with herbicide and it won't kill the corn. Kill everything else. And you look in that field and you say, ain't that pretty? You don't see a weed out there. And that's something. Those guys are sharp. Only thing is, they're dousing it down with herbicide. And the herbicide is designed so when it hits a plant, it will stick, right? Because if it just washes off, then it's not going to work. But they also use it as a pesticide. So it's really rough on insects. And if you spray it on a crop that's genetically modified, it's not going to hurt the crop, but it's really rough on the pests, the bugs and stuff. But then they take it a step further and they say, well, if we spray it on, let's say, a wheat crop just before it's ready to harvest, that is a open pollinated, which means the antithesis of genetically modified. It's not genetically modified. It'll kill it. And we're killing the whole crop at the same time. And then we'll let it sit out there in the breeze and the sun. It all kills at the same time. And then when we come through combines, we can harvest it. And then it go in semis. It can go directly to the mill and we can make flour out of it. So why did we have a relatively recent trend towards people who are gluten intolerant? I never heard of that when I was a kid. Never heard of it. I never heard of it when I was 45 years old and 44 years old. So 20 years ago, I never heard of it. I don't think, I think I just started hearing it in the last 10 years. I mean, I haven't had my ear to the ground or anything on that, but there's a couple kids in our family that, not my family, but my wife's brother's family, that are gluten intolerant. Whenever they come here, they can't eat this, they can't eat that. And I think even my son's kids have a slight gluten intolerance too. Now, are they intolerant to gluten, or is that just where we've hung the sin? Have we just hung the sin on there and said, well, it's the gluten. It's that damn gluten again. And what about drinking milk? I never heard of somebody that couldn't drink milk. I heard of kids that didn't like milk. But now all of a sudden, people are lactose intolerant. Is that because your body is defective as a mammal? You can't drink cow's milk? So we have all these defective people out there. And so they got to go to drinking almond milk. What the hell is almond milk anyway? I don't even know. Don't want to know. I'm wondering if it isn't the same thing. I'm wondering if it isn't glyphosate that they're intolerant to. Now, I don't think that when you take a small dose of glyphosate in your food, that it gives you a bellyache. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that as a herbicide and a pesticide, same thing as both, that when you take that into your digester that is full of flora, you're going to do some damage, especially if it's a consistent intake. And with all of these people, when I questioned them a little bit, they were getting a consistent intake. What they would call in antibiotic use in CAFOs, a subtherapeutic dose. Subtherapeutic dose. So if you do a blood test, you're going to get oh, wow, look at this. You got a ton of glyphosate. No, it's within acceptable limits, according to the FDA. Acceptable limits of glyphosate in your bloodstream. Okay, and you know that anything that they say we should probably go with, right? No, I don't think so. So I am not telling you guys, and this is not my message, that we need to call our congressman and get glyphosate outlawed. I'm not saying that. I don't think I ever want to say anything like that. Like, we need to do away with factory farming. No, I'm not saying that. It's sort of, I feel it's sort of like when you go to the airport and they want you to go through a radar backscatter x-ray machine, but they say, but if you don't want to, you can opt out. And then they can feel you up and, have a good time with you. And you feel like a convict, but you can opt out. And all you have to say is, no, I'm going to opt out of that. Go ahead and, give me the pat down. I don't care. I've been patted down a million times. I don't care. So I opt out for it because I don't feel as though I want to get, a dose of radiation just so they can verify that I'm not carrying a weapon. I just don't think it's worth it to me. So I opt out. And I'm saying to you, this is my message. You can opt out of this. You don't have to have a consistent subtherapeutic dose of glyphosate. And I would, well, I'll touch on this in a minute. You don't have to, but it's not like, Donald Trump in the White House, which I think is a good thing, but I don't think you got to say, well, he'll fix that. I don't think so. I think it's like with most things, the buck stops with you. Rachel Jameson said that today. The buck stops with you. It's your health. You're the one that's got to deal with it. And if you don't do something about it, it's on you. I don't think that it would, if you had really terrible health, brain fog, can't stay awake, really bad joints, water on your joints, all that stuff, and going downhill fast, you're the one that has to deal with it. And well, we'll sue whoever. Well, what good is that going to do? If you don't have health, a lot of money isn't really going to fix that, because you could go on the best tour of France, let's say, but if you're sick, nothing's good. You go to Disneyland, but if you're sick, no good. And I wouldn't want to go to France or Disneyland, but I think you know what I'm saying. So your health is very, very important. Now, I will tell you about me. I used to stop on my way home. I had an hour's drive home when I was active duty. This is 20 years ago. And a guy that I knew, he was a youth pastor. He's like, "Hey, have you ever had Mountain Dew Code Red?" I'm like, "No, is it good?" "Yeah, it's good. And you can get it. You can get a big cup of it for 99 cents at the gas station here. Unbelievable." And so I used to stop on my way home like every day and just go in there, had an hour ride home, get a Mountain Dew, say hi to the guy behind the counter. I just got to know the guy, get some pumpkin seeds or something. And then that was what I did on the way home. And also listen to talk radio on the way home. That's what I would do. And I wound up doing it every single day. And then when I got here, or when it was the weekend, let's say, I'm going to get a 12-pack of Mountain Dew. The kids enjoyed it. It was great. Code Red. Give me a Code Red. And I don't know what it was about it, but it was addictive. It was addictive because when I didn't have it, I was kind of looking around for something. And then when I got here, I continued on that path. We would eat wherever we wanted to. Burger King was a favorite. Jill likes Arby's. And so we used to, whenever we took a notion to it, we'd do it. But then things started getting rough, trying to make a living farming, and then going to Burger King was kind of out of the question. The Mountain Dew kind of went by the wayside because of that. And my health changed. I lost weight, even though I wasn't over my max weight, but I lost weight. I was down to about like 210, which seemed a bit skinny for a guy that's 6'4". And but I was feeling good. I was getting up early, working late, and eating dinner, slamming a cup of coffee, and going back out until I knew my wife was going to be upset with me, and then I would come in. And I could do that day after day after day. I have a clear direction where I was going, but I was trying to find it. And I didn't even really notice that there was a health change, to be honest with you, because I wasn't health conscious. I had always just been healthy and was. Fast forward the tape to about 10 years ago. And wintertime, we went to there used to be a health club in Cadillac called Pine Grove. And we would go there, and you'd pay like a starter fee, and all the kids could go swimming. They had a hot tub. There's never anybody there. The place was run down. It's closed now, but we would go in there and go swimming in like January and February. You got little kids, you got to do stuff with them. And I jumped on the scale in the men's locker room one time, just for fun. I think I was waiting for a kid to get dressed or something. And I jumped on there. It's like, this can't be right. 265 pounds. 265 pounds. And I noticed, hey, I can't really fit into a size 30 waist anymore. And I'm at a 38, and this is kind of tight. But so I knew something wasn't quite right, but I didn't have a number to go with it. And I asked the lady, "Is that scale accurate down there?" And she says, "Yeah, it was just calibrated not too long ago. It's accurate." Then I looked at myself. It's like, I am 45 pounds heavier than I was when I got out of the military. 10 years. Something was wrong. And my knees hurt. And I just thought, well, that's it. You know, getting older. So this would, I probably would have been 50, I don't know, 8-ish, something like that. And yeah, there was problems. I was taking naps during the day. It got to be kind of a ritual. My jaw kind of ached. I had tinnitus in my ears. My jaw would ache after lunch for some reason. I don't know. Shoulder. I had a shoulder that was bad. I used to play baseball and I had a good arm, and I couldn't throw. I just thought, well, it's getting older, and I just kind of ignored it. And then I did the carnivore diet. Now, I'm not saying that the fix is the carnivore diet, but what am I not getting when I'm doing the carnivore diet? What am I cutting off? Cutting off that subtherapeutic dose of glyphosate, because although it's not in the vegetables that we grow here, it's in seed oils. So if you get French fries, it's in it. It's in anything that you would get from chips like Lay's tips. Oh, it's in there. Plus the seed oil that it's made in. And when you start to be conscious of where is glyphosate being used, there's very few places where it is not used. And so we determined that that is something we want to stay away from. And so we did, and continued the carnivore diet. I lost a bunch of weight, 40 something pounds. I'm on a 220 right now and pretty happy right there. And started feeling healthy, and not only feeling healthy, but my mind changed. I started to discover again, and like there was magic again, like when you're a kid, like Christmas morning, oh, that feeling. Or when you find Easter eggs, you're looking at, oh, there's one right there. This farming operation is like that. Whoa, what a discovery. Last week, I'm looking at a piece of equipment that I need to process my my chicken feed. And then I like, hey, wait a minute. That's a $10,000 piece of equipment. I could build it. And so I start that process, and it's just really exciting. And I'm very fulfilled with that excitement. And I know that it's not real exciting to other people, but I don't really care as long as I'm having a good time and being productive, taking care of my family, protecting my family, keeping my my act together, or my poop in one sock, as they say. Keeping my act together. Doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm good. I'm on vacation. I'm feeling good, and my life is going good. I'm making good decisions. I'm profiting. I'm getting along good with my family. Getting along good with my wife. Sleep in a warm bed. Do cold plunges in the morning. I eat good. Really enjoy a cup of coffee. Really enjoy it. I really like it. It's like, hey, this is wild, isn't it? Just this cup of coffee. So I think that has a lot to do in my life, is ditching the glyphosate. And as I've been going along and people cross my path, I tell them, oh, well, I know what I would do. I would go on the carnivore diet. For one, beef has to be grass-fed, and it cannot be laden. The fat cannot be laden with glyphosate. Otherwise, you're going the other direction, and you're not going to see a change. You might lose some weight, but you're not going to heal your gut and all that bacteria regenerated in there, all that flora. You're not going to do that, or it's going to be severely retarded if you continue with the glyphosate. And I'm just not sure why we hear this. And then I got to thinking about, the internet and how we carry these around everything. And you see consistency in what you do see, right? And, you'll mention a product and all of a sudden you'll have 15 ads for that product. That consistency. What do we deduce from that? The damn thing's listening to us. Maybe not in so many words, like they're not actually listening to you, but there's some little algorithmic mechanism in there that when you say a certain word, ooh, he might want one. Maybe we can sell him one. Right? That's sales. But I think that, to me, when I'm on to something and I'm on the phone talking with my friends about their health issues and I say the word glyphosate 15 times, why is it that I'm not seeing, 50-gallon drums of glyphosate showing up? Why is that? Why is it that when we do water tests, if we're if we're licensed by the state and they require, why is it that there's no column for glyphosate on there? Why is that? Why is it that if you are just going about your daily business and you're in the farming business and you're concerned with health and you see a lot of information like that, reels that they show you that they think you'd be interested in, and you've used the word glyphosate poisoning, why is it that that never shows up? Why is it that we rarely or never see those two words together on here? I have never seen it. Maybe you guys have. I mentioned it to my friend yesterday who's in Washington, and he's a real smart cookie and he's a lawyer. And he said, well, there is a class action suit, but that's only people who are sick beyond recognition that are suing, like a Monsanto. They're toast. But what about the people who are not that far along or just in the very beginning stages? Why is it that we're not doing a preventative informational about, hey, get this out of your diet right now? If you want to be all you can be, get this out of what we don't see that. So I just think that's kind of interesting. My message would be opt out. And how do you do that? You've got to find clean foods that don't have glyphosate in them. And I don't know, for me, it's easy because I'm in the business. I know what my cows eat, and so I know. But I would say if I was somebody that lived in a population center, it would be a chore, because about the best you could do is go to like a Whole Foods or something, and well, on the label it says this, but then I'd be kind of scratching my head thinking, these guys lie. I wonder if they're lying. I won't know, but I don't absolutely know that it's clean, and it's getting me towards my goal of bringing the parts per million in my body of glyphosate down. So I made that video today, and it got all those views, as I said. And I started looking at some of the comments, because I said, if you got comments, I want to hear it. And there's one guy, he always seems to need to be the smartest guy in the room. And he says, well, there's glyphosate in everything, and you can't get away from it. And I thought about that point of view. And like, if we had that point of view with, let's say we got a flat tire and we were going someplace, we were going to a Def Leppard concert, let's say, for instance, and we get a flat tire on the way, and there's somebody in the car that says, eventually all these tires go flat, so let's go home. We won't go to the Def Leppard concert. If we had that attitude towards it, like, you can definitely bring your parts per million up if you want to. You can definitely do that. You get a glass full of that stuff and chug it right down. Your parts per million are going to be way up here. Why can't you bring them down? if you put some time into it. It's not going to be easy. Nothing that's worth a damn is easy or cheap or does require effort on your part. Everything requires effort. Everything requires your time, your energy, your resources. Everything does. Everything that's worth a damn. So I really had to think about what he said, and I just deleted the comment because I thought it would be so damaging to other people who don't really have a point of view on the farming industry, the small farms industry, and the big farms industry. So they're just like, well, here's this guy, this really good looking, young guy saying this, but can I trust him? And then you have somebody that puts a comment in there that really is sort of like a left-handed, you don't know what you're talking about guy. And so I just deleted it because I thought it would be damaging to people that would hear this and maybe be struggling with a health issue and say, I got nothing to lose by bringing my parts per million down. Why not? Let's see what happens. Because like my sister's health issues, when she went to the doctor, they wanted to give her another ingredient that is not part of her body. It is not part of her ecosystem. They wanted to give her something to alleviate the symptom, but they're really not interested in, well, why did this start in the first place? Is this an environmental condition? Is this something on the inside of you or on the outside of you, environment? Or is this a genetics thing? Is this just, your mom had gray hair, so you got gray hair? Is that one of those things? What is it? They don't care. They just want to treat the symptom. So now they would want to put her on this, and now she can't sleep at night. So, okay, well, take this. Now you can sleep at night. Well, I can't wake up in the morning. Well, take this. That cycle. And I have seen that in young men coming out of the military that have adjustment problems, which if you come out of the military and you don't have an adjustment problem to civilian life, I would say that maybe there is something wrong with you, but you don't deal with that adjustment by, we'll take this pill. This will numb you. So that'll help you adjust. Yeah, but then I don't care to be with my wife anymore. Well, then take this. I've seen that in young men that have come here. Young men, that they give them a group of questions and, yep, you got PTSD. Take this. You got PTSD. You need this stuff. This will take care of your PTSD. And I don't think that's the solution. It's like when we have a sick animal, the animal is not sick because its body does not have this antibiotic in it. Now, the antibiotic can be used therapeutically to alleviate a symptom and give the animal a fighting chance. I'm not against pharmaceuticals. It's the method that they're being used because there is profit in it, right? The same thing with glyphosate. I'm sure that if it were used properly and not in the dosage that it's being used, it wouldn't be such a big deal. I mean, it wouldn't be in the groundwater at my house, a 60-foot well, it wouldn't be in there, but it is, right? At 20 feet, it was worse. At 60 feet, it's not quite so bad. So it's way, way worse. It's way, way less, right? So I've said, oh, well, it's every place, so we might as well just drink out of the 20-foot well. No, do that. You do what you can to alleviate it, to mitigate the risk. It's just like how you don't get shot by a sniper. You don't stop going to the bathroom altogether. You just don't get up every night at 2:22 and go to the bathroom because you will be a casualty, right? You mitigate the risk. It's like that in everything, I think. It sure works well in the farming business, just risk mitigation. And if there wasn't a pattern here of success, then I don't think I would share it with you. But there is a pattern of success. And although I am a big proponent of the carnivore diet, I don't think it's the fact that your body is missing beef. I think it's the fact that you are eliminating that subtherapeutic dose of glyphosate. That's my thought on it. All right. And for whatever reason, that video got 5.7 views, 5.7 thousand views. Let's see if it's got even more now. But what do you guys think? I've said enough. I'm going to read the comments here, and then I'm going to sign it off for the night. And I feel like I've done my duty. I've shared what came to me. And does anybody know where thoughts come from? Because I'm not saying I do. I'm just wondering if anybody does. Where do thoughts come from? I don't know. Let's see. 6.1 thousand views. 6.1 thousand views. And 36 comments on this one. I'll read the comments. These are great. Rachel Jameson says, preach it. And Rachel also says, you are where the buck stops. And that means something to me hearing her say that, because she had challenges, health challenges, and they went the conventional route, every avenue that they could go, and they finally had to take it into their own hands to solve it. And they did. Her and her husband both, and one of their kids. And she's got a real good testimony. Kristen Catherine says, the master has spoken. It is up to you to listen and hear. She's a fan. Lisa Genza, I interviewed her one time, maybe a year or so ago, and she says, hallelujah, speaking my language. Diana Lynn says, do you ship? Baker's Green Acres says, yes, we do. Andrew Wigston, my Canadian friend, pastor friend, longtime friend, says, so important to know. Thank you, friend. Yeah. Jordan Buck. Roundup is also patented as a bacterial bocide. Okay, so it is a bacteria killer. What is your gut full of? Bacteria. Okay, I can't pronounce this name, but she says, we bought some meat from this gentleman. The best we ever had. Please support farmers like this guy. Scott Dick says, if you know about the PBB poisoning that happened in Michigan in 1917, it's the same process, just slower because the USDA has safe levels of poison. Oh, this one kills me. Carol Pelembus. She said the iconic wish I lived closer, she says. I would like to get your grass-fed beef. People say that all the time. Wish I lived closer. I mean, well, how if you were going to a Def Leppard concert and it was 100 miles away and you really wanted to go and your life depended on it, would you travel for it? Would you send a request and we put it in the mail to you? I mean, your life does depend on it, and the changes that you see are pretty quick. And then Cassandra Wilcox says, thank you for saying it. You are located about 80 miles north of us, but we will be making the trip! ! So I'm looking forward to meeting Cassandra Wilcox, because that's a sacrifice. 80 miles, 160 miles round trip. That's a day off. And I haven't looked at Cassandra yet. On Facebook, I will. But I'm assuming, yeah, she's a younger person. Well, it could be her mom. I don't know. But that's a day right there. A turnaround like that is a day. But is it worth it to you? You got to ask that question. Is it worth it to you? Rex, Schneid. I really enjoyed your post. I learned a lot. Carla Moore says, thanks for the explanation. Jane Lewis, agree completely. Wondering your take on the so-called bird flu, avian influenza. They are culling so many chickens. Am disagreeing with this nonsense. I would touch on that for a minute here because some interesting information came past my desk. How many acres do you have there? I don't know what the relevance of that is. Will you still have piglets to sell? Yeah. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Where are you located? Alice Peppernheim. And I said, Marion, Michigan. Sandra Davis, 100% correct. Alicia Garba is giving me the clapping hands emoji. Sandra Davis, glyphosate is patented as an antibiotic. This is why it has such a negative effect on the gut. Is that right? An antibiotic? Antibacterial, maybe? Nathan Fanfalone, thanks for sharing. I know it's hard to find straw that isn't sprayed. Yeah, well, see, straw is the stalks from grain crops. And that is true. That is true. Terry Van Hall, I haven't seen her in a long time. She's got a big, long thing here recommending we watch something else. But yeah. Crohn's disease is highly inflamed by Roundup glyphosate, Dave Morgan says. And then Jamie Garneau is giving me multiple clapping emojis. And then Christy Marcus is giving me 2 clapping emojis. There was one guy that said some negative stuff, and I don't know if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it. It got shared a bunch. It got shared on other, but that's a lot of views for, just a few hours ago. It really is. Just in the time that we've been on, it's gone up to 6.1 thousand. Holy smokes, shared 26 times. All right, well, if something happens to me, you'll know what it was all about. They wanted to silence this big mouth. And I'm not saying shut them down. I'm saying you need to opt out. You need to opt out. She asked about the bird flu thing, and it was the Inspector General of the USDA. Her name is Phyllis Wu, I think. Let's see. No, it's not Wu. I should be able to find it pretty easy. So just put in USDA Inspector General fired. Her name is oh, well, I would have to well, anyway.
Now, Army security agents have escorted the Inspector General of the US Department of Agriculture out of her office after she refused to comply with her firing by the Trump administration. Phyllis Fong reportedly told colleagues that she intended to stay after the White House.
Her name is Phyllis Fong. And I got another note from a friend, and I haven't run this down, but apparently she was fired from the Inspector General's position at the USDA. And if you know anything about Inspector Generals, it's like that is really where the buck stops. And not only was she fired, she wouldn't leave, and they had to escort her out. Security in the building had to escort her out. And I heard yesterday that she was actually arrested. So they're digging into these people real hard. And the arrest was over the massive amount of laying hens that have been culled in the United States. Massive amounts. So what they're doing, if you, let's say you're a USDA approved producer of eggs, and usually that happens when you take money from the USDA to build these massive facilities, you are actually signing into a contract. You know, there's a hook in that money, and that contract is you got to do what we tell you. And so the USDA has detailed people to these massive, massive places and said, we're going to do a little testing for bird flu. And if they find one case, they're destroying the entire flock. So what does that mean? That means that, you know, we don't produce millions more eggs than we need in the United States. We produce what we need. And that may mean we pad it a little bit for making egg beaters or whatever. But when you kill millions and millions, I think the number that they're giving out is 100 million laying hens have been destroyed. So how long does it take a chick to get to the point where it's going to lay again? 5 months. So now we have a 5-month gap in the system. Anybody wonder why the price of eggs has gone up? Anybody got an idea why the price? I heard this morning the average price in the United States right now is $7.50. So some places on the West Coast it's $12 a dozen, and then like here it's still $5.90, something like that. So it's crazy compared to what it was, but $5.90 is probably a pretty fair price for a dozen eggs. So what's my take on it? It's made up. It's made up. Why now? Like, why are these things happening now? It's just, I'm noticing a pattern here. You start hearing them rattling their sabers about, ooh, the next pandemic is going to be the bird flu. What do you know? That happens. You know, that's how they operate, right? Because they have to tell all their minions all over, bring out the bird flu. That's how they do it. And like, we should be catching on to this. I almost feel like the last 4 years was a training exercise for people to watch. So they start to notice, I'm noticing a pattern here, a pattern of lies, deception, and corruption, fraud, waste, abuse. I'm noticing it. A friend of mine says to me yesterday, well, don't you feel a little bit worried about, you know, billionaire businessmen that are in charge of saying who stays and who goes? And I said, yeah, I would, except my gut is healthy and my gut is sizing these people up and I trust them. I could be wrong, but when I see them, I have a level of trust. And part of me is like, well, why would this guy manipulate the chicken market just so he could make a few extra million when he's worth 350 billion? What, get richer? The guy lives in a rental house, drives like a Toyota. Not really into money. Not really into money. You know, definitely not the love of money. Money is a tool, but I am a little worried with people who love money and they're a millionaire, but they want to be a multimillionaire. Well, you know, if I was a millionaire and I needed to be a multimillionaire to do the next thing that I want to do, then sure. But just to have multi-millions of dollars in the bank, what for? Money is a tool. It's like the love of shovels is the root of all evil. If I just accumulated warehouses full of shovels, they'd be putting me in a straitjacket. But it's a tool. Money is a tool. All right, so let me read these comments and see if you guys are tracking with what I'm saying. Keith Sutton's with us, saying hi. Let me know that he's recovering. Been making snow angels out in the snow. Sean Wise. Hey, Sean. Dion. Inga. And Jacob. Loretta. Brian is, I was like that before we met personally. Like what? A trans Z? Or what? What? How were you? I'd like to know. Write it at the bottom. How were you before we met? Crunchy Mama's with us. Crunchy Mama's tearing it up out there in Texas, doing all kinds of good classes, teaching people how to butcher steers and pigs and all that. Taking it to the next level. Way to go, Crunchy. Bread made with Egyptian wheat and bread that I had in Europe, no problem. American wheat, my body isn't happy. Okay. There's some circumstantial evidence. Must be something in the pesticides or something added for storage. Hey, have you noticed bread? I saw a thing this morning. It was some sort of reel. And a lady was saying, well, this bread, I opened it in October. This one, and she takes it out and she pushes down on it. It's not moldy or anything. That's kind of worrisome. If the bacteria and the funguses and all that stuff can't reduce that loaf of bread after a long length of time back to the earth, what makes you think your body can digest it? You know, so we have a compromised digester, and then we're putting into it things that can't be digested because they're somehow chemically modified, so they cannot be digested. Oh, that makes perfect sense. McKenna just had a single piglet in a litter, sad but better than none, named her Uno. Plan on taking her to mom every couple hours for the first few days till she gets fat enough to not get trapped in. You know what? I've been there. If I was you, I'd just get her on a pan, pan feeding. At first, you're going to feed her with a syringe, every couple hours. And then she'll get to the point where you can bottle her. And this is just a few days. And then she'll get to the point where she's on a pan. But you only got one. Why don't you, mitigate your risk, keep her in the house for a month, get her on a pan, just like a saucer that you can pour milk in. And then you'll have one. But if you put her out with mom, one pig, I don't know. Don't want to lose mom. Well, if you don't want to lose her, then don't put her out, because we've bottle fed several groups, and then we put them out with mom, and then she would bite one in half, and it's like, oh, take them all back in. At least you get them to the point where you can put them outside when it's warmer weather by themselves. Because she's got nobody to snuggle up with. You'll have to keep her in for a while. Brian's saying, I feel it's the fast-acting yeast not tearing apart the gluten. How long have you felt this way? Tell me about those feelings that you have. The fast-acting yeast not tearing apart the gluten. Well, that's dumb, Brian. That's just dumb. You're dumb. You are highly inspirational to me, Mark. That's the fact. That's a fact. Do a lot of what I do because of you. Thank you, McKenna. Michelle Dupree. This is a new person. Josh and Carolyn from the homesteading family recently did blood work to check poison levels and were shocked to learn that they both had high glyphosate levels. Ooh. More on glyphosate. Glyphosate is not I repeat, not a persistent chemical in the human being, which means that you can flush it. The parts per million going in and then just digest, you will slough it off. That's the good news. That's the good news. Even though the majority of their diet is homegrown organically, the only thing they could figure it was from feeding their chickens non-GMO, but not organic feed. Okay, well, Michelle, when glyphosate is sprayed on, let's say, wheat, a wheat crop, or barley, and you know what they make out of barley? They make beer out of barley. But let's say, yeah, they're probably big beer drinkers, and they just don't want to admit it. They're probably drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, right? You never know. But when it's sprayed on a non-crop, they are spraying it and they're saying, well, this is a pesticide because we don't want pests coming in the harvest. We don't want pests. So they spray it with that to kill the pests. Added benefit, it kills the wheat. And then the wheat stands there for a couple weeks and dries. Then it can go directly to the mill. It doesn't have to go in a bin and then run electric fans to dry it out. Right? So that's why, that's the real reason that they do that. That's the real reason. So it will be sold as a open pollinated wheat, but they don't feel a need to tell you that they've douched it down with glyphosate. They don't need to tell you that, so they don't. So if I were to talk to them, I would say, you're going to have to learn how this product is used, and if they can use it, they will use it. Glyphosate becomes part of the protocol. Do you realize if you're going to buy seed to do corn, and you want to buy that seed, you have to go to a class to learn how to apply glyphosate. And the seed that you're going to buy, oh, by the way, you got to buy the same seed next year. You can't save seeds to plant your next time because they also genetically modify, or they say they do. I'm not sure if this is actually true. I've heard people say, oh, I've saved it. It still works. They say that they factor in a suicide gene so that the kernels that come off the corn will not germinate. I'm not sure if that's true, but I've heard it from many different sources. But I've also heard people that have said to me, I planted some just to see. It still works, right? But when you buy Monsanto seed, let's say you buy a Monsanto seed, there's several companies that sell a seed. You're buying a protocol, and that protocol includes glyphosate, because they're saying if you buy this seed, well, back it up from there. When you're going to start, you're going for a loan, an operating loan, and they want to know, well, what are you going to plant? Well, I'm going to plant corn. How exactly are you going to plant this corn? They want to know. Before we write you a check, we want to know what you're planting. Well, I'm going to do a glyphosate 261 or a Monsanto 261. Oh, that's a protocol. And that includes the seed, the number of times you're going to spray, and the number of days it's going to take before you can harvest. And oh, by the way, you're going to insure that crop, right? You're going to get insurance on that? Yeah, I'm going to get insurance on it for sure. Okay, because the adjuster is going to come out and he's going to want to see where you sprayed this day, and this day. Because let's say that crop doesn't make, what it's supposed to make. And you say, whoa, Mr. Insurance Man, I'm going to make an insurance claim because I only got half of what I was supposed to get. He's going to come out and say, okay, I need to see records. Who applied the spray? When? In what amount? I want the particulars to make sure you did the protocol correctly, because we're not going to pay you if you didn't do it right. See? It's protocol. And you have to, in order to know where are they using this. So let's say that you like to drink cheap wine. Do you think there's any glyphosate in that? You think? Do a little research on that. They actually distill it down for you so you can get the parts per million that you need. Vicky Nagel. Oh, so yeah, what Michelle is saying, they're figuring it must be in their chicken feed. They must eat a lot of eggs. But that could be. That could be. That could be. I wonder what else they do. Maybe I can look at their maybe I can look at their website just for fun. It's not like I'm going to contact them and try to help them or anything. But I just like to see if, from watching what they're doing, if I could say, I bet you that's it right there. You know, that's troubleshooting. Okay, Vicky Nagel. I wonder if it's David Nagel's wife. Are you and Jill presenting again this year at the Mitten Conference? I'm going to be presenting Friday night an inspirational message. Yeah, so I am. I'll see you there. McKenna, I had terrible knee pain. I have a patellofemoral pain syndrome. And since farming and walking in the grass more than on factory floor, it's gone. My knee is 100% better. And so glad I started farming. Yeah, I think a lot of times there's two factors that happen. You get distracted from your thing, and then you just get to it, and before you kind of walk it off. You know, you work it through. Like with my sister, what we're going to do, or we're going to recommend, because she likes to eat eggs, but I said, you just never know what people are feeding. They might be feeding something that's organic, but organic standards doesn't say you can't douche it with glyphosate, with pesticide. You can use pesticide if you need to. See? So, well, I use pesticide just to keep the weeds down. See? Not good. If people have a route where they can cheat the system, people will do that. You know, another thing there, McKenna, I would look at getting your knees on the ground. You know, hopefully, if you're really farming hard, you'll have holes in your pants there so you can ground yourself out. I think that's a big thing too. And as far as the lack of regeneration, what usually happens is you start to see joint pain. That's one of the first things. So you got to get that inflammation down. The inflammation is what creates the problem. It creates a lot of nerve problem. I think that my issue with, you know, my nerve pain down my leg was inflammation. And I think my body was just healing something that I cracked or strained real bad. All right, David Duncan. Hello, everyone. All right, David. Michelle, they eat the chicken too. I'll find a link in the video and send it to you if you are curious. I am, and I'd appreciate that. To me, it really highlighted how careful we have to be to avoid that poison. No kidding. You have to be a super sleuth, and you have to work at it. So I made this video today, and I said, you know, I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't tell you, we're working hard for 2 weeks now, butchering beef. It's 100% grass-fed, never ate anything else, and my store is full of it. Because if I just go on and say, don't do this, and don't offer you some solution when I have one, you know, I feel like I'm remiss in my duties. And some gal accused me of, well, he's making up a bunch of horror stories just to sell his beef. Come on. And I said to her, you can't have any. So if I see that name come up, she's not getting any. But, you know, hey, if you have to sacrifice to drive someplace to get something to put in your body that's going to heal you, I think you'd be responsible to do it. Is that just me? All right. Had a lot of fun today. A lot of fun on this. Appreciate everybody coming by. There is no consulting call tomorrow night. We're every other week. If you want to get in on the consulting call, I see a lot of names on here, new people. Go to anyone can farm experience. No, bakersgreenacres.com and follow the links. And it's a paid thing. If you hire me to come out to your farm to consult with you, it's very expensive. It's very expensive. So this is an alternative to it. We're putting this technology to good use. So we do a Zoom call. You can ask me any questions you want. You can show me pictures of your stuff. You can show me drawings of what you have. And generally, somebody that has walked this path before you get the question out of your mouth, I generally know where you're going. I'm not going to say, I won't interrupt you, but at this stage of the game, when there's junior people coming in, they're having the same, I don't want to say, yeah, they're hitting the same intersections. You know, it's just you hit the same. There's consistency in. Well, if we got our first laying chickens, I could probably give you the top 5 problems that you're going to have. It's just there's consistency there, and we had those problems. We worked through them. So, you know, if I can say, well, I had that problem, this is what I did. It's like my sister. She told me about the thing that was going on with her knee, and I said, oh, I had that. This is what I did. And I didn't hear from her for 24 hours, but then it was like, tell me more about this. But if I'd have come right in and said, oh, you need to, doesn't work. People got to want to know. And a lot of times you don't even know what you need to know. So consulting is a good thing. When you bring questions, you know, they open the door. When you go through the process of asking a question, you become fertile ground. You ask a question, well, how do I solve this predator problem? And you're expecting 1, 2, 3, 4 responses, but you're open. You may get, you know, door F thrown at you, but you're open to it. So asking the questions is part of the equation to solving the problem that you're having, because you may get a response that you didn't even think was part of it. You know, you may get a response, but if you don't ask the question, you're not open to it. When we visit other farms, I don't ever say, oh, you need to. No, you don't do that. If you're there and somebody says, what would you do if you had a barn this size? You know, I'm going to be measured, right, in what I say, but that's the, you know, I would think about it. I would, well, maybe I don't know, I'd do this, I do that. And, you know, but they're asking. If you don't volunteer it if they don't ask. All right. Good. Productive night, I think. You can share this. You can super chat me too. All right. Got to get going. Remember, anyone can farm. Good night now.